June 2026. Jupiter and Venus align in the night sky, close enough to cover with your thumb. Cosmic, rare, historic. But the real alignment isn't in the sky. It's on Earth, on Wall Street. SpaceX goes public. $1.5 trillion valuation, largest IPO history. In 1957, Sputnik launched and the world split in two. This is that scale of event. Because what's happening isn't a company raising capital. It's the gate controlling access to space, shattering. And when it breaks, the rules change. Not just for governments, for everyone. Rewind to 2014. A Pentagon official stares at a problem with no good answer. Every American military satellite, GPS, reconnaissance, missile warning, launches on Russian engines. RD-180 engines, built in Moscow, shipped to Florida. The same year Russia invades Crimea. Suddenly the US military is paying its geopolitical rival for the engines that lift national security satellites. Congress loses it. The question gets brutal. What happens if Russia stops selling? No backup plan, no alternative ready, years to develop one. Then SpaceX walks in. They'd been trying to break into military launches for years. Getting laughed out. Too new, too risky. But now, gatekeepers are panicking. SpaceX's Falcon 9 doesn't use Russian engines. It's cheaper, $60 million versus $400 million. And it's American. In 2016, SpaceX wins its first Air Force contract. By 2020, they're launching classified spy satellites. Not because the Pentagon suddenly trusted them, because they had no choice. But that crisis didn't just swap vendors, it proved something bigger. When the old system fails, innovation fills the gap faster than anyone expects. The backup plan became the primary plan, and dozens of other companies saw a path forward. Crisis didn't just crack the gate. It revealed what was always possible. Fast forward to 2024, SpaceX completes 134 launches, more than 2 per week. The entire world managed 90 annually a decade ago. Arianespace, Europe's launch provider, bleeds contracts. Their rocket costs $200 million. SpaceX charges a third of that. European satellite operators quietly book Falcon 9 flights. Russia's Soyuz rockets used to launch European payloads. After Ukraine in 2022, that stops cold. India tries to compete at $50 million per launch. But SpaceX does 170 launches in 2025. India manages 6. By 2025, SpaceX handles 80% of global payloads. The launch floor collapsed. But while legacy companies scramble, something else is happening. A university in Kenya books a rideshare slot for $250,000. A startup in New Zealand launches its first satellite. Countries that couldn't afford a space program 10 years ago now have orbital assets. When launch costs drop by 90%, the question stops being, can we afford space? And becomes, what should we build up there? Access that was reserved for superpowers is suddenly available to anyone with a budget and an idea. The collapse of the old model isn't just destroying, it's democratizing. 42 countries now have satellites in orbit. In 2010, it was 25. IPO hits. Early SpaceX employees, engineers who joined when the company nearly went bankrupt, become billionaires overnight. Google bought in at $12 billion valuation back in 2015. That stake is now worth 100x that. But here's the other side. Boeing flatlined at $94 billion. Tens of thousands of aerospace workers at legacy firms watch their stock options stagnate while SpaceX engineers get instant wealth. An engineer who spent 15 years designing NASA's space launch system watches SpaceX's Starship test launches. Bigger payload, fully reusable, a fraction of the cost. Their rocket took $23 billion. Still not operational for crewed missions. Starship's already caught its booster mid-air with mechanical arms. That engineer's entire career just became a reference point for what not to do. Except, here's what happens next. That same engineer gets recruited by a startup building lunar habitats. They offer equity, not just salary. The company's backed by the same venture funds now flooding into space tech IPO. Within 2 years, their lead architect on humanity's first permanent moon base. IPO doesn't just make some people rich, it proves the entire sector is investable. Suddenly there's $50 billion looking for the next SpaceX. Rocket Lab's stock jumps 60%. Blue Origin announces a $10 billion round. 15 new space companies secure Series A funding in a single quarter. Old Aerospace had 100,000 jobs. The new space economy is projected to create 500,000 by 2030. Someone's career ended, someone else's just started. March 2027. You're not in aerospace. You work in insurance, maybe logistics. Your company announces satellite data monitoring for supply chains, powered by Starlink. 6 months later, your manager gets reassigned. The new AI scheduling system cut his job. It runs on orbital data centers. A mining company shifts R&D funding toward orbital refining. Stock wobbles. Jobs disappear. SpaceX bought $19 billion in wireless spectrum in 2025. Direct-to-device satellites. Your phone connects straight to orbit. No cell towers needed. Telecom companies panic. Your job didn't move to orbit yet. But someone's did. But then, remote villages in sub-Saharan Africa get high-speed internet for the first time. A doctor in rural Indonesia video calls a Singapore specialist. A farmer in Mongolia checks real-time weather data that saves his harvest. That insurance company? Hiring 50 new positions in satellite risk assessment. Universities launch space economics programs because there aren't enough graduates. Your company offers tuition reimbursement for anyone upskilling into space-adjacent fields. The job that disappeared created 3 nobody knew existed 5 years ago. Something breaks. Something begins. For all of human history, every economy, every resource tied to Earth. One planet. All the eggs. By 2026, something changes. SpaceX demonstrates orbital refueling. Starship-to-starship propellant transfer in space. Which means launch, refuel in orbit, and go anywhere without coming back. A mining company refines asteroids in orbit, manufactures in microgravity, sells directly to lunar construction. No Earth involvement. A closed-loop economy in space. If space-based manufacturing beats Earth costs, the money moves. Except the orbital economy needs Earth. Raw materials, expertise, mission control. Manufacturing components that can't be made in zero gravity yet. A propellant depot on the moon creates contracts for Earth-based suppliers. Lunar habitats need life support systems engineered in California. The International Space Station employed 15 countries' worth of contractors. The new orbital economy will employ dozens. And here's the thing about becoming multiplanetary. Earth stops being a single point of failure. An asteroid doesn't end humanity. Resource depletion doesn't close every option. For the first time, civilization has backup. The economy isn't leaving Earth behind. It's finally learning to exist beyond a single world. June 2026.
IPO goes live.
Jupiter and Venus shine bright over Texas. SpaceX shares price at $185. Within hours, $210. $1.5 trillion valuation confirmed. For 60 years, space was controlled by governments. You needed permission, budgets, treaties. Now you need a purchase order. Rocket Lab stock surges. Blue Origin secures massive funding. 42 new space companies form in the month after. The gate didn't just open. It got ripped off. Challenges remain. Who owns asteroids? Who regulates orbital traffic? We're adding thousands of satellites per year to an environment with zero enforceable laws.
But that same chaos created GPS.
The internet, satellite weather forecasting that saves thousands of lives annually. Air travel seemed impossible to regulate. Now we manage 100,000 flights daily. The space economy will find its rules, because there's too much at stake and too much opportunity not to. Something's breaking right now. The old model of space access, the monopoly on orbit, the idea that only nations can reach beyond Earth. But something's beginning. An economy spanning planets, jobs that didn't exist, And for the first time in history, humanity's future isn't tied to a single point of failure. SpaceX's IPO isn't the end of government space programs. NASA's Artemis missions launch with SpaceX's help. It's partnership, public and private, pushing farther together. The question isn't whether this changes everything. It already has. The question is, what gets built in the space that opens up? Because something always breaks. And something always begins. If you're into stories like this, where one decision reshapes an entire frontier, subscribe. The next economy is being built right now, and there's a lot more happening up there than most people realize.